Hi class, so today we're going to take notes over early American literature. Let's get started with the topics of this time period. Journals often recounted the sea voyages and exploration of the new land. So when you think about this time period, think about when people were first starting to come to the new world. Often these journals described successful and failed expeditions, as well as interactions with the native people. Their accounts described the new land and allowed those still in Europe to visualize North America. Writers focused on the development of new settlements and the goals they had in the new land. So those were some topics. Let's move on to characteristics of this literary movement. Most of the writing pieces were primary sources, first-hand accounts, and they offer the most insightful glimpse into the settling of early America. Primary sources include journals, diaries, letters, logs, and personal narratives from those first arriving from Europe. So the context, the history that was going on. So Christopher Columbus begins a journey with the hopes of arriving in Asia by traveling east instead of going around Africa. After the discovery of the new land, many other explorers began to arrive in the hopes of finding riches to take back to their native country. As more and more explorers return with tales of the new land, Europeans began to travel to America, to settle there in the hopes of new prosperous lives. As the colonies began to develop, more native people were pushed off their land, and the slave trade to America began as a means of helping develop the new country. So we're going to look into slave narratives a little bit and take some notes about those. These were the life stories of people who survived slavery. They portray the culture shock of a newly captured African. The narratives focused criticism on slave traders, not slave owners. Later on, when we get to a later literary movement that takes place during the Civil War called realism, we're going to see another form of slave narratives, but they're not going to focus on the slave traders, they're going to focus on the slave owners. So it's really important to know that the slave narrative from this literary movement, from the early American literary movement, is focused on slave traders, the people that were taking them from their home country and forcing them to come to the New World. Slave narratives included religious and moral appeals against slavery. So these are some famous works and authors. I'm not going to read through them. We're going to read La Relation by De Vaca in the next class. And I hope to get to read a slave narrative, but because of, our Hamilton trip and focus, we might have to put a hold on that, but we shall see.